Hello, welcome to yet another episode of Pivotal Moments with Liletta. Once again, we have another amazing person sitting down for the conversation. So let's get right on into it. I have Aiyana with me, and we are going to be talking about obviously pivoting. But Aiyana and her husband, her family, they're just doing amazing things. They're the owners of Black Love and Relationship, which she'll correct me on that. And also for Black mental health therapy. So I'm going to turn it over. Aiyana, welcome to the conversation. I know I kind of probably botched that up a little bit, but why don't you
Good.
share exactly what you all are doing?
Sure. So I'm just happy to be here and to be part of this conversation with you today. So thanks for having me. That's the first thing. And so, yes, I am the co-founder along with my husband and business partner, Aiyana Ma'at, of Therapy for Black Folks and Black Love and Marriage. And blackloveandmarriage.com is where we are online, and it's how we do the work that we do. We run a relationship coaching and counseling practice, working with couples and individuals around relationship focused things. And then we have the mental health side that specifically focuses on African Americans, and that's called Therapy for Black Folks. And we can be found at therapyforblackfolks.org. And we also do the same thing, work with folks around, mental health issues, and particularly in the Black community, really trying to normalize the fact that we all have some struggle, we all have some strain, and that our mental health is just as important as our physical health, our spiritual health. I think Black folks, we know spiritually we're one of the most religious and spiritual people. We get that, but we don't understand how oftentimes, I think there's been a lot of progress, but oftentimes how all of that plays a part in our overall well-being, just looking at our mental health, our relationships. So we've been doing this now for 10 years. The relationship side, it kind of went fast. And I guess we'll talk a little bit more about how we started to pivot in a much more concrete way in terms of expanding into mental health within the last year. Mhm.
Wow. Well, thank you for giving that detailed explanation. It's such an amazing thing, and this is one of those areas where we have to address the fact that as a culture we have a different experience. When it comes to mental health, when it comes to family and relationships, this is one of those areas where we can't deny it. We have to really address it from a very specific angle because we do have a different perception and viewpoint and experience when it comes to those areas. So I really
Mhm.
applaud and appreciate what you all are doing in that
Thank
regard.
you. Thank you.
Yeah, so let's get into pivoting. So again, this is pivotal moments. So what pivotal moment would you like to share with us today?
So I think, we've had a lot of pivotal moments. I've had a lot of pivotal moments along the way. But what I would say is that for me, my life has always been one where my background is in social work and in counseling. And I've been a therapist for 20 plus years now. And so in my, I've always had these double lives, my 9 to 5 world and my business on the side. And I've always worked in, mental health, worked in foster care and counseling and psychiatric hospitals and that kind of thing. And so for me, the goal was always to shift into being fully self-actualized as an entrepreneur. I mean, my husband and I have 5 children, so we have a 7-member family. It's no easy feat, just taking care of our family, but also being able to, emotionally, but also being able just to provide financially. But I think a pivotal moment for us. There's a few, and so I'm just going to really quickly just go over them. I think
Sure.
for us, we like I said, I've been doing this work for 20 plus years, but my husband and I, 10 years ago, went to we were actually at church, and I think there was like a couples thing after church, and a 2 people came in, and they were talking about this program called Basic Training for Couples, and it was a curriculum for African American couples. And I was thinking like, oh, we want to do this. Like they were trying to say, it's going to be 6 to 8 weeks. It's awesome, and you should, do it. And really trying to get people to come out. And my husband was kind of sitting on the side looking like, uh, and I was thinking, oh, maybe he'll listen to them because he don't listen to me, right? So
Right, right, right.
work on. And so we, long story short, went through that class, and I learned that, oh, not only did he have some issues, I had some issues too. Okay, maybe I'm a little touched too. And then as we connected with other people, like, oh, like this is normal. We're not alone. And oftentimes, folks, you just feel like you're by yourself or you're dealing with your own stuff. So I think a pivotal moment for us going through that process, and then after we've completed it, going through it a second time, becoming a mentor couple, and then saying, let's get online and start answering questions about relationships. And oh, let's get a YouTube channel. Oh, now let's get a website. And then all of a sudden my husband said, let me go back to school. I want to do this work for real. And then, we blossomed into our business. There were all these series of pivotal moments where we had the opportunity to make a choice to just lean in, even though we didn't know exactly what we were doing. We didn't have a plan, like we're going to do this and then this and this. We just really, were open to putting one foot in front of the other. And that landed us where we are today, in terms of the couples work that we do. And then the pivotal moment, I would say, within the last year has been, for me, my personal story is one of being an adolescent, and having a lot of struggles, having a lot of challenges, and particularly because of not a new story for a lot of folks, but my background of having like an on again, off again daddy, not around, not with my mom, and just, I had a lot of issues and pain and anger around that. And when I became a teenager, they say adolescence is when you start to get a little extra, all that stuff started to come out.
Yeah.
And it really did. And I started to have some challenges. My mom had the good foresight. She's also a therapist, so but she put me in therapy. And one of the things we know about therapy is that when you go in and do the work, as you start to really get into it, you might start to fall apart, so to speak, a little bit more because you're getting more in touch with stuff. So I ultimately was admitted to the Psychiatric Institute of Washington, a hospital, mental health hospital in Washington, D.C. for 30 days. Pivotal moment. It changed my entire life. It was amazing. I realized I learned I was depressed. I started taking medication, did that for about a year or two. And it totally shifted me into a different place. And long story short, many, many years later, I, in my career, ended up becoming the chief clinical officer of that very same hospital. And I said, God, look at how you do, to take me through what I've been through. And so all of these things, I think the pivotal moments for me and for so many of us, when we really look at them, it's like, there are always choices that we have. And if we just, even in the midst of pain and struggle and all that, we just surrender, we don't know where we're going. Everything that happens to us, I really do believe is happening for us. And I definitely feel like that happened for me on my journey. And it's been a part of, what's driven me to do the work that I do.
Wow. Well, I mean, I got goosies. I had to hold back a little tears. Like, that is such an amazing journey and story. And I really appreciate you sharing that. I have some similar background with that, so I could really appreciate it.
Oh, good.
Wow.
Yeah, thank
And then so when we talk about, the pivotal moment, we talk about that thing that we pivot around, that's central importance, that's unchanging, that we tend to discover when we've made the pivot, that this is a thing. Some people call it their why, but this is that thing that
you.
I will make those shifts around this. So can you share what maybe you learned or discovered in making those pivotal moments?
Okay. Yeah, I think for me, um, and I think this is something that I learned in little ways over and over and over again. Like you're saying, where it's like this is always a theme that keeps coming up or resonating with me.
Yeah.
And for me, a part of my personal history has been that I was not. I remember when my mother put me in counseling back in the day. I was like 15, I believe. And and I remember probably for about the first year, I would go every week, and at some point, or several points throughout the session, my therapist would ask, well, how do you feel about thus and so, or what are you feeling about that? Right? I would never know. I'd be like, I don't know, and I literally did not know. I was like, I don't know. I don't know. And I was so out of touch with my feelings and had developed such a distance from my feelings that I really did not know. And that was the work for a year, her asking me and being like, I don't know. She let me really need to think about that and come back the next time. I don't know. I don't know.
Mm,
Um, and so now I tell y'all that to say that what has become a theme of my life now, I very much am an advocate for. I lean into it, as you even have seen already, in terms of just my transparency of like putting everything out there, getting in touch with my feelings, encouraging other people to share not just the good stuff, whether it's the relationship work that I'm doing, not just the pretty stuff. Oh, we power couple, we this, we that, but how you don't talk to each other, or we crying at night sometimes because we can't come together. People ain't having sex, all kind of funkiness. And then in terms of mental health, in terms of everyday challenges that folks have around anxiety or dealing with just these low feelings that never seem to go away, or they come back and forth. I really think it's important to honor your pain, to honor your struggle. I've dubbed myself an overcomer some years ago, and I really feel like the core piece and the pivotal piece for me and all of the things that I've done has been about honoring your feelings, exploring what they are, owning them, and telling your story, and not glossing over it, not making it sound packageable or quickly skipping to the victory,
yeah.
but really, laying out the pain and the struggle of what you dealt with. Because I think, obviously, it's helpful for you and for me and for us to do it for ourselves, but it's extremely powerful and liberating for other people, for us to just be authentic and to deal with that. And I think that's been a big piece for me also, because it was so difficult for me,
Yeah.
and it was so hard for me. So I can resonate with when I'm working with folks, and I understand how difficult it can be to bring it up out of yourself, to really see it for what it is, and even to sometimes just feel the feeling. Sometimes folks come in, and especially my sisters, they come in, and we're some of the most insightful. They break down everything. This is my background, this is his background, and he had
Hmm.
this trauma,
Hmm.
I had this trauma, and then I think I got a little bit of this and a little bit, and they got it
Hmm.
all. I mean, they're going through it like, they're giving a big presentation, and there's no emotional connection to it.
Yeah.
It is an
Yeah.
intellectual exercise,
Yeah.
and a big part of the work that is important for folks, if you really want to transcend where you are and move forward, is to not just know it, but to feel it. Because when you feel it and you can really get in touch with it, then you can really release it and release yourself to like healing. And so I think that's the piece that was so hard for me. It still can be difficult for me at times, but that's kind of my superpower, I think, really helping people to get in touch with those feelings, and really use that as fuel to get you to the next place in your life.
Mm.
Mm, yeah.
Y'all better. I hope y'all taking these notes, because I don't know if you realize, but she is dropping some powerful nuggets. All I can say is yes, I agree with everything you said. I've experienced that
Okay.
myself.
Mhm.
I've been in therapy before, but this particular time of life, being in therapy and literally remembering, one of the sessions where we unlocked some things that I've talked about before, maybe growing up or some challenges. But again, a good therapist knows how to really make you own it and honor that pain. And I remember just like crying for like a whole day of just
Mhm.
certain trauma that I went through. And
Yeah.
it's like, wow, I didn't even realize I even had those emotions
Mhm.
associated with those things.
Right.
But it's freeing. Once you do it, you really can start to grow. So I'm so happy that you shared that. Wow.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
good stuff.
Game changing. It's game
Yes,
changing.
yes, yes. So now switching up a little bit, we always have the part in our conversation where we talk about adjustments, because pivoting, like we said, that can be kind of like defined as our why, right? That's kind of like our, it's more centered to us and what's important. But adjusting a lot of times is about that adapting to a situation that may be uncomfortable or unfamiliar. So can you talk about where you've had to make adjustments rather than pivots, and how that was for you?
Hmm. Okay. And are you talking about specifically like in my business, personally, or tell me what you're
You know,
thinking about?
either one, if you want to keep it along the same
Mhm.
thread, but just anywhere where you could think of maybe where you've had to make that adjustment and it was a bit uncomfortable, but how you maneuvered through it.
Gotcha. Okay.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think for me, I always tell folks because people just assume because we do a lot of social media and online, work and that kind of thing. And so people, and I am an extrovert, so I will say that I am an extrovert. But I don't know if you've heard people say like an introverted extrovert.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
so so I would call myself an introverted extrovert,
Mm.
and I say that because one of the things that I realized when I shifted into full time business for myself is that oh, so like some of these things that um, I felt were optional before, such as reaching out to other people to collaborate on some things, such as having conversations with folks and asking for help around certain areas that I really did not know enough about. And I really, if I wanted to move forward, I was going to have to come outside of my box. And before I could kind of leave those to the side, only because it was uncomfortable, because I didn't like that part of the work. And I still had a 9 to 5. So at the end of the day, it
Yeah.
wasn't really that deep. I
Yeah,
wanted it,
yeah.
but, we play these little mind games with ourselves. And so moving into this space of being full time, I realized, when my husband and I sat down and were really looking at our annual plan, I remember oh wow, like there's a lot of stuff that needs to be done that I don't want to do. And I would love to give it to someone else. Number one, I don't have no money to give it to someone else. Number two, it's not for them. Those jobs aren't for them because they can't articulate the vision and some of these things in the way that I could. And so I think where I had to adjust and where I have to continually adjust is um, opening up myself to establishing new connections, being really intentional about doing that in a very strategic way for my business and for myself. And when you're an adult, whether it's friendships, like, whether it is, other folks who also have some similar passions as you, and you guys can come together and really help to feed into each other, whether it is really concrete stuff it can be really difficult, more difficult than I realized. And then I have adult ADD. So my brain is all over the place anyway. I'm like, I got all this to do, and I got 5 kids and a household to run. Like, sometimes I'm like, what was I doing? I don't even know what I was doing. It can be quite overwhelming. So I really had to adjust in terms of being, one of the things, and I'll just add this little piece that my husband and I talked about a lot early on is, wow, when you don't have a supervisor, when you don't have somebody telling you what to do, when you're on the side of having a supervisor, you're like, I can't wait till I don't have to be dealing with this, and I don't want to be, I want to use my time the way I want to use my time. And I remember being at work and thinking like, trying to do some stuff on the side. I'm like getting irritated, like they are asking you to do your job, Aiyana. Like you're supposed to be here working for them, right? And like,
Right, right.
yeah, wait till the day I can get up and make my coffee and do what I'm supposed to be doing. And then when you get to that side, then it's like, oh, sheesh, there's a lot of things that have to, and I have to be self-directed. I have to own
Yeah.
myself and my schedule, and I have to have some targets because there's nobody else who's going to do that for me. And all of these things equals results, outcomes, dollars and cents. Those are some major adjustments I think that I've had to make in terms of just how I flow day to day in my work life. And a lot of that really challenged me and still challenges me to really get clear about like this is a real growth area and you might need some help. You're gonna
Yeah.
have to open up to that. Yeah.
Wow. Wow. I
Mhm.
really appreciate you saying that.
Mhm.
Yeah. I can definitely appreciate that. And what
Mhm.
a
Mhm.
great thought. I had someone else in the conversation one time, a fashion, super fashion model at 74. And she shared the
Wow.
same thing. She was like, the biggest adjustment for me is recognizing that, the non-corporate world doesn't operate like the corporate world, which I thought that's what I wanted. She's like,
Mhm.
I miss some of that, right? Some
Yeah.
of that
Yeah.
kind of structure and the
Yeah.
level of accountability that is
Mhm.
there on the corporate side. we do have to adjust to be able to bring that order and structure onto the other side, the non-corporate. So I can appreciate
Definitely.
that.
For
Wow,
sure.
wow. Yeah.
Mhm.
Well, as we come to the end of our conversation, I always have everyone leave that additional
Mhm.
golden nugget or thought with our viewers. So what would you like to say directly to the viewers watching this right now from you?
Mm. Well, I would just say that whatever stood out for you in this conversation today, whether it was encouraging or resonated or even irritating to you, whatever it is, to really pay attention to that and to think about for yourself, what is it that I can be doing differently starting today to really pay attention to these pivotal moments in my own life, because they're always there. There's a book called The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho, which is a great book, and it's about a young boy who's on a journey, really moving towards his destiny. It's fiction. I don't even read fiction, but I read that book because it was so good and people talked about it so much. And one of the pieces it focuses on is are these omens and signs that the young boy got at different times in his life, and sometimes he paid attention to them and sometimes he didn't. And so for me, and I think for so many people, whether it's the voice of God whispering in your ear, whether Spirit is using this conversation to share some things, whether it's just a feeling that you have, all of these things are pivotal moments. They are opportunities to make choices, to do differently. We don't have to be stuck. We don't have to be confused. All we have to do is take one foot and put it in front of the other. And so if you just simplify it to that, I have to do that for myself all the time now. Like, okay, what's the next step, Aiyana? Because it's a whole lot going on. I'm completely overwhelmed, and it's very easy for me to get overwhelmed. So I just say, what's the next step? Okay, let me just move to the next step, and that gets me one step further along. So I think that's my little piece to leave with everybody today.
Wow, that is so
Mhm.
beautiful, so beautifully put.
Mhm.
Wow. Well, thank you so much for sharing your story, yourself. This has been encouraging to me, and I know to those watching that it will also encourage and inspire. And as a busy person, I really am honored that you took some time out to have the
Oh,
conversation on pivotal moments with me.
absolutely. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Well, ladies and gentlemen, it's another episode of Pivotal Moments with Liletta. Thank you so much for watching and for your continued support. And we will see you next time on Pivotal Moments with Liletta.